Good morning, and welcome to the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm Claire Marie Wall, your service associate for today, and I'm joined by service leader Karen Griglock, with Julie Morris at the piano, thank you, and Amy Austin leading hymns. Our technical team is Mary Stackpole, Josh Benson, and Deborah Mensch, who help us to be seen and heard. As I say the welcome words this morning, I invite you to really take them in and imagine how it might change the way you interact with people you are just getting to know. You are all welcome here today. In all the beauty of languages, culture, skin tones, shapes and sizes that come together in your uniqueness, you are welcome here. In all the ways you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, you are welcome here. In all the ways you make your living and the places you are from, you are welcome here. In all of the traditions that inform your spiritual life, you are welcome here today. No matter how long you are away, nor how soon you will return, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears, you are welcome here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you today.
We acknowledge that the land surrounding us is the stolen territory of the Arapaho people, and that many native peoples roamed freely on this land for millennia before the arrival of white settlers. If you're new here today, we are really glad that you found us, and we hope that in this community, whether you're here with us in person or virtually, you can experience the warmth and the love of this congregation. Each Sunday looks a little different here. If you came here last week, you saw that for certain. So we invite you to come back a few times to really get to know us. We have many opportunities during the week for social connection and for spiritual growth. Those on Zoom can check out the links in the chat to help you get connected. And those of you in person can find our newcomer form on the QR codes that are in the back of the hymnals. or you're welcome to stop by the welcome table in the foyer to better get connected with us. Everybody who is on Zoom, you are welcome to stay after the service for casual conversation or a virtual coffee hour. And if you're here in person, please come to the fellowship hall after the service and join us for your own cup of coffee. And finally, if there are any new visitors on Zoom, we would like you to introduce yourselves in the chat if you're willing, so that we can know who is among us. Those of you in the sanctuary today, please take a minute to greet your neighbor and say hi if you see a face you don't recognize.
Everyone's favorite moment.
I will invite you to say the words along with me as Claire Marie lights our chalice. Our slides might be a little flaky today, so just kind of repeat after me if it doesn't show up. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. And now I will sing our bowl gently again, inviting it to draw you deeper into this present moment and for you to join this beloved community. The problems that we face in the world and all of the work that we do to help those problems can seem overwhelming, especially when you feel that you are all alone in doing the work. Let us take in the wisdom of these opening words from the Rabbi Davis Wolf as a reminder. A boy and his father were walking along a road when they came across a large stone. Do you think if I use all of my strength, I can move this rock? The child asked, and his father answered, if you use all of your strength, I'm sure you can do it. And the boy began to push the rock. Exerting himself as much as he could, he pushed and he pushed, and the rock did not move. Discouraged, he said to his father, "You were wrong. I can't do it." And his father put his arm around the boy's shoulders and said, "No, son, you didn't use all of your strength. You didn't ask me to help."
Good morning. We are going to join our voices together in song using the Gray Hymnal, and we'll be singing hymn number 168, all of the verses. Again, that's the Gray Hymnal, number 168, One More Step. Would you rise in body or in spirit? Peace for us and everyone.
Today, April 30th, is the anniversary of the day that 100 activists for disability rights ended their 26-day occupation of San Francisco's Federal Building in 1977. That lengthy sit-in was perhaps the most public sign of a changing world in which people with disabilities would win their fight for equal rights with the signing of the Americans for Disabilities Act on July 26, 1990. Once unseen because they were not allowed access to schools, employment, public transportation, restaurants, theaters, etc., people with disabilities fought for the right to speak for themselves and to be present with their fellow citizens. Representative Pat Schroeder was quoted in the LA Times. "What we did for civil rights in the 1960s, we forgot to do for people with disabilities." Fortunately, certain powerful voices kept reminding everyone to remember. One of the most eloquent was Judy Heumann. Her memoir, Being Human, the unrepentant memoir of a disability rights activist, begins with a prologue in which she honors her immigrant parents from Germany, who had, quote, personally experienced what happens when an entire country chooses not to see something simply because it is not what they wish to see. Judy and her parents questioned anything that didn't feel right. When Judy wasn't hired as a teacher in the New York public schools because childhood polio had left her in a wheelchair, she fought back. Resisting that injustice led to her first legal victory and a change in New York state law so that blind or physically disabled people could teach. That was just the start. As she said, quote, "Some people say that what I did changed the world, but really, I simply refused to accept what I was told about who I could be, and I was willing to make a fuss about it." Her memoir is remarkable, filled with her courage, anger, intellect, great good humor, and honesty. I wish I could do it justice here. Please read it. And by the way, thank you, Beacon Press, for publishing it. Hers is a rich story, but she never acted alone. In her words, quote, "Any story of changing the world is always the story of many. Many ideas, many arguments, many discussions, many late-night, punchy, falling-apart, laughing brainstorms, many believers, many friendships, many failures, many times of almost giving up, and many, many people. This is my story, yes, but I was one in a multitude." She says, quote, "At heart, I am a networker and a convener. I meet people and introduce them to other people. I suck up as much information as I can and try to share it with as many people as I can." She created partnerships between groups working for civil rights from the beginning. She worked for Presidents Clinton and Obama, for the World Bank, the State Department, the Ford Foundation, always making sure that everyone's voice was heard, even if it took all night. And she believed in democracy, however slow it was, even though it needed a push now and then. Do you remember the disability activists crawling up the Capitol steps to make sure that George H.W. Bush signed the ADA at last? They refused to be invisible. Judy Heumann died on March 4th, 2023. We will miss her.
Each week, we remind ourselves of the abundance of our lives and of this community by giving away half of our plate to those organizations that we feel share our values. This week's recipient, EcoCycle, partners with every sector of the community: schools, businesses, neighborhoods, local governments, places of worship, and public events to make zero waste accessible and affordable for all. Recycling and composting, downstream solutions to our waste woes, are priorities, as are upstream efforts to prevent waste and replace our society's throwaway habits with ones that are more sustainable. In the late 1970s, EcoCycle was founded by local visionaries, some of whom were members of this very congregation. We have continued that commitment through our recycling program and the work of our congregants who are EcoCycle volunteers. For more information about the continuing work of EcoCycle, please go to their website at www.ecocycle.org, or you can visit the EcoCycle table in our coffee hour in the fellowship hall to learn more. You can text your donation at the number on the screen, or if you're in the fellowship today, you are welcome to place a donation in our offering plates. Please give generously as you are able, as you so often do. As Julie plays our musical reflection, which might sound a little familiar to some of you, we want to invite you to reflect upon and write into the chat if you're on Zoom your answer to this question. Think of a time when you initiated positive changes through networking and joining together with others. For the work of the fellowship, bringing love, reason, compassion, and justice to this world, and for the work of EcoCycle, we dedicate these offerings. Yeah, we dedicate these offerings.
Once upon a time, in a land not at all far away, an election was held which surprised and even devastated a majority of the land's people. Instead of wallowing in despair, however, several young people decided to help themselves and others who were grieving over that election's result to rise up and begin to fight back. The year was 2016. The young people were former congressional staffers, and they called their magic project Indivisible. As congressional aides and progressive thinkers, Leah Greenberg, Ezra Levin, Jeremy Hale, and Angel Padilla knew a great deal about how to make friends and influence people politically. In the unexpectedness of Donald Trump's election as president, they decided to share their hard-won knowledge by compiling a 23-page online guide to action for those who wish to counter the agenda of the new administration. The handbook, called Indivisible, a practical guide for resisting the Trump agenda, offered suggestions for peaceful resistance to, quote, resume the project of creating a humane America that is more like social democracy than corporate plutocracy, according to Peter Dreyer. Indivisible was and is a blueprint for resistance. Maybe not surprisingly, the authors modeled their document after the successful Republican Tea Party movement, which had focused on local activism, particularly to obstruct President Obama and the Democratic Party after the 2008 election. In 2016, it was the political left who targeted Republican members of Congress, specifically by showing up at town halls and members' offices, organizing phone blitzes, and picketing. The point was being present, being vocal, being annoying, and refusing to accept the new status quo. The original Indivisible guide went viral quickly after it was published online on December 14, 2016. Such folks as Robert Reich and activist George Takei circulated it on Twitter, etc. One could say that the local protests inspired by Indivisible ultimately prevented the repeal of the Affordable Care Act as one example of its effectiveness. Greenberg and Levin, who are married, were on Time magazine's list of 100 most influential people in 2019. Indivisible became a 501c organization to facilitate contributions of money, endorsements, and volunteer time. In the tradition of activist collaboration, they worked with other organizations like the DCCC to protect Democratic incumbents in 2021. Currently, they intend to restore a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives through a new project, Unrepresentatives. Now, if you go to their website, it focuses on 18 Republicans who are trying to remain invisible, not indivisible, invisible, under the wire, so that they are not openly associated with the MAGA movement, which Indivisible was created to resist. So Indivisible seeks to expose them to closer scrutiny before the 2024 election. So whether they are on the right or the left politically, such movements as the Tea Party or Indivisible exemplify one crucial truth. Resistance requires those who inspire and disseminate knowledge, and also those who work locally and nationally to make their resistance effective. Power to the people.
Would you please take out your gray hymnals again, and we are going to sing a song of solidarity and being together in the difficult times that have been and are still to come. Number 170 in the gray hymnal, we are a gentle, angry people. Would you please rise in body or in spirit? We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. 5 is on the bottom of the page. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Claire Marie mentioned the name George Takei, who, along with his family, was subject to Executive Order 9066, issued by President Franklin Roosevelt on February 19, 1942. This executive order authorized the forced removal of all persons deemed a threat to national security from the West Coast to relocation centers further inland, resulting in the incarceration of Japanese Americans. On March 29, 1942, under the authority of the executive order, Lieutenant General John L. DeWitt of the Western Defense Command issued Public Proclamation No. 4, which began the forced evacuation and detention of Japanese American West Coast residents on a 48-hour notice. Only a few days prior to this proclamation, on March 21st, Congress passed Public Law 503, which made violation of Executive Order 9066 a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in prison and a $5,000 fine in 1942. In the relocation centers, also called internment camps, of which there were originally 32, 10 of those camps in 7 states were permanent and housed over 120,000 Japanese Americans. 4 to 5 families, along with only the possessions that they could carry, were moved into tar-papered army-style barracks. And most of these conditions and most of these people lived there for over 3 years until the end of the war. While some chose to fight the orders, such as Fred Korematsu, who later went on to become a civil rights activist and was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1998. Gordon Hirabayashi, awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously in 2012. And Minoru Min Yasui, all of whom served time in prison. Many others, with little notice, sold everything that they could not carry, taking huge losses on their homes, businesses, and furniture upon getting their relocation orders. Some in California and Washington were moved to Camp Granada, now Camp Amachi here in Colorado, a National Historic Site. And to Rohwer and Jerome new tongue, let's try again. To Rohwer and Jerome War Location Centers in Arkansas. So from California and Washington to Arkansas. And while many were devastated, they followed a Japanese cultural concept of gaman, a term that roughly means enduring the seemingly unbearable with patience and with dignity. And it was expected that their children would do the same, even while interred, while trying to go to high school and work. Once World War II was over, some returned home to try to start rebuilding a life from virtually nothing. Shikataganai, another Japanese phrase and cultural concept, meaning it cannot be helped, or nothing can be done about it. It is what it is. And acceptance was how many middle-aged and older Japanese felt about what had happened to them. It was primarily those who were children at the time and those who were born after who pushed for having the US government say that what was done to them and their families was wrong. It was primarily Sansei, or third-generation Japanese Americans, who began to join together with groups such as the Japanese American Citizens League and many other groups to push for recognition. And their campaigns worked, eventually. It took until 1776 before President Gerald Ford officially repealed Executive Order 9066. 1976, sorry. Thank you. On February 24th in 1983, the Commission on Wartime Relocation and Internment of Civilians issued its report, Personal Justice Denied. It concluded that Executive Order 9066 was not justified by military necessity, and that the decisions which followed from it, detention, ending detention and ending exclusion were not driven by analysis of military conditions. The broad historical causes which shaped these decisions were race, prejudice, war hysteria, and failure of political leadership. Finally, in 1988, Congress passed and President Reagan signed Public Law 100-383, the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. And that acknowledged the injustice of internment and apologized for it, and provided $20,000 cash payments to each person who was incarcerated. And while nowhere near enough to replace that which was lost, at least an admittance that what was done was wrong. So why did Claire Marie and I tell you about these stories? That answer has a lot of parts. One, to share them with you, some of which I had never heard before, and some of which details aren't necessarily taught to us. Two, none of these stories would have had the outcomes that they did if they had remained one person trying to push that boulder up the hill by themselves. All social change and justice making requires is for you to do what you can do. Do what you know, do what you're good at, and that is your part to play. Three, all of these movements required people to think outside the box. And for some, outside of cultural norms that they grew up with, to exact real change. From laying on the steps of City Hall with wheelchairs and walkers at the bottom, to defying shikata-ganai, these intelligent, brave, frustrated, and yes, tired individuals teamed up to create something better. 4, we are ending the month of April and the theme of resistance and bridging into creativity for the month of May. And I thought that a reminder that if what you're doing doesn't seem to be bringing about any change, maybe it's time to team up and see if you can think of it another way and try something different. Try something new. Try something outside of your comfort zone. 5, I am a historian. And the one thing I know is that every generation says that their children are lazy, listen to raucous or bad music, drink too much and spend too much time in the company of others, so to speak. They aren't as smart as we are, and so on. And it's been this way as long as there have been people writing it down, from the ancient Romans and Greeks on. It wasn't true then, and it isn't true now. The arc of justice is long, sometimes very long, but it bends toward love. With the generation that is following us, I have a lot of hope for the future. Now let's have them show us that they've got this. And now I want to invite us into our time of community connection and our time of sacred sharing. If you are on Zoom and you'd like to share a joy or a concern, please type into the chat window, sending it to everyone, and let us know briefly what is in your heart today. And I will read out loud what you share. Claire Marie will add a stone to our sacred waters on your behalf. And if you're in the sanctuary today, you can come up front and please briefly share your joy or your concern using the microphone and add a stone to our sacred waters. You are always welcome to add a stone in silence if that is your preference. I wish to offer up to you a prayer or a blessing from a name that might sound familiar, John and Sarah Gibb Millspaugh. As we have been blessed, so we bless one another to be a blessing. Breathe in, breathe out. This breath we share with all that breathes. Feel the love of the universe flowing through this community into you and out into the universe again. Let the love of all the universe, your love, flow outward to its height, its depth, its broad extent. You are more than you know, and more beloved than you know. Take up what power is yours to create safe haven, to make of earth a heaven. Give hope to those you encounter, that they may know safety from inner and outer harm. Be happy and at peace, healthy and strong, caring and joyful. Be the blessing that you already are. That is enough. Amen and blessed be.
One more opportunity to sing together your gray hymnal once again, number 95. I feel like the hymns have been so spot on today. And I know that for me, one of the reasons I came to this fellowship right after the 2016 election was because I didn't know if there was any place that I would find love, hope, peace, joy. And so this just means a lot to me. Let's rise and body your spirit and sing number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere.
We do have a few announcements. Following the service, Reverend Lydia will be leading the second session of Faith Like a River. This month's topic is heresy and orthodoxy. You are all welcome to this drop-in class on UU history and theology. We'll meet in the Mountain View room from 11:30 to 1:30. Snacks will be provided. So feel free to grab some coffee from the fellowship room and join in. Also coming out later today will be a questionnaire for those who are interested in becoming a service associate for the upcoming year. If you have questions, please talk to Karen Grigolak or to Reverend Lydia. I've been doing this sort of work for a while now, and I've found it an excellent method of spiritual exploration as a Unitarian Universalist. So if you enjoy being creative, working with others to prepare welcoming and thought-provoking services on Sunday, and if you'd like to speak your truths from the podium, please let us know. I recommend the experience highly. One other announcement.
So did you get pretty good at Zoom during the pandemic? Do you still want to? Would you be willing to use your Zoom skills and maybe learn a couple of new ones? That would really help the AV team to run services that go smoothly for the folks on Zoom. We need a new Zoom host or two on the AV team, and you can do the job from home, or here at the ship, or anywhere with good internet connection. As a matter of fact, I have hosted the last 2 Christmas Eve candles and carols services from my parents' basement in Virginia. You can even get trained in less than an hour while Zooming from your home in your pajama pants. If you are interested, please see me after the service. I can answer your questions, and I can pass your name on to Deborah. And if you're on Zoom today and would like to become a Zoom host, please email Deborah at the address in the chat. We appreciate your willing hands. If we would all like to rise in body or in spirit, you are welcome to join hands, hold shoulders, or if touching is not your thing today for whatever reason, feel free to hug yourself so everyone knows, I'm good with me today. As we extinguish our chalice, please follow these words with me. We extinguish the chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Winston Churchill said, "All the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope." Hold on to hope this week, even if it seems hard to see. Small acts of joy and kindness, when you put them together, can change the world, and so can you. Blessed be.